Hello, everybody. I'm really happy I can be here and share our experience with the use of the CFR with you. Although the experience comes from the context of a very small language, the Czech language, I think it's transferable and it might be useful, hopefully even for you. I'm going to introduce briefly my institution, comment on our life with the CFR, and at the end, I'm going to show two examples of how we work with the CFR. The Institute for Language and Preparatory Studies is an independent department of the Charles University in Prague, and it has a long tradition in teaching Czech as a foreign or second language in a wide variety of courses, and also in preparing teachers of Czech as a foreign language. And part of it is the research and test center I work for. This center is responsible for developing and providing a wide variety of exams. Today I will focus on one of them, a set of exams called Czech Language Certificate Exam, CCE. The coexistence with the CFR passed through several phases, from pure admiration and faith to a more rational use. After the CFR was published and translated into Czech in 2002, most of us, and I mean the users of the CFR in the Czech Republic, entered the labeling phase. The CFR was the Blue Bible, untouchable, and it was accepted as it was written, without many attempts to modify and localize it. In fact, we didn't know much what localization meant at that time. Several years later, in the intuitive phase, we started to believe we own the CFR and that we know it so well that we can interpret it. At that time, many books, courses, or exams appeared, all with labels, but only little explicit and empirical evidence of their relation to the CFR was visible, except for the labels, of course. One of the products of this phase were the inventories or catalogs of Czech language that were later used also for syllabi, for the courses, and also as the source material for the development of a new suite or set of exams of Czech as a foreign language, the CCE. I spoke about it a little bit earlier. That was in 2007. The CCE exam passed the ALTE audit number 1 and lived on in the paradise phase till the shadow of the next audit. The awakening came with new, improved procedures for the audit number 2. It brought a lot of doubts, discussions, questions, for instance regarding the linkage of the exams to the CFR, and also about the functioning of the exams. The accumulated knowledge, experience and data, and the need to pass the audit gave rise to the plans for CCE revision. This was a big chance to look at the CCE and on the CFR and the companion volume with new eyes and through new knowledge, and it led us to the eye-opening phase. It turned out that the revision cannot be limited to the relation of the CCE to the CFR. It affected, in fact, all the facets and processes of the exam development, use and interpretation, and also the way we reported the results and communicated with stakeholders. As the outcome of the revision, we have revised all exams at all levels and for all skills, their constructs, specifications, criteria, internal guidelines, published materials, and also we worked critically with the reference materials, that means with the CFR and the companion volume themselves, and we adapted them and modified them for our purpose. And for the time being, we entered the partnership phase. We do not know for how long. Okay, and now I will show you two examples of the local adaptation of the CFR we did. This first example shows very briefly and in a very simplified way how we proceeded when we adapted the performance level descriptors from the CFR for our test specifications. In this case, it's for writing. In the last column, there are descriptors from the companion volume, with the page reference always. But we also added some explanations of the concepts that were unclear, ambiguous, or incoherent. Passages that were repetitive or redundant were marked, discussed, and deleted if necessary. In this column, we store comments and discussions about the meaning or about the modifications. This is only for the internal purposes. In this column, in the second one from the left side, we wrote the Czech translation of the final version of the descriptors. And those small columns on the left side contain task descriptions and the information about the relevance of each descriptor for the particular task. I would like to emphasize the role of translation from English to Czech. I will speak about it later on. The next example illustrates the rating criteria development. We started with a list of linguistic categories and subcategories, and we evaluated their relevance for the exams and how they relate to the original CEFR performance level descriptors and also to the modified version of them. Then we formulate the rating descriptors that describe those performance aspects we wanted to elicit and measure by the task, and again we added explanations and examples from live performances. This is the third column from the left side. All this was a really repetitive cycle, always with many provisional versions, pre-testing and discussions until we got the final version. To sum it up, the CEFR action-oriented approach has been built into all processes as much as possible, and local and modified performance level descriptors were used for construct definition and exam specifications, rating criteria development, as you saw, internal and external team training as well. And as an important by-side product, we implemented task banking system, and we are able now to assemble comparable test versions. We were also able to document the revision process, including the localization, and we are happy to have positive feedback from our stakeholders and both external and internal team members. And when looking back, one of the most useful things that helped us to understand better the CEFR and to adapt it to our purpose was the need to have the materials in Czech language, translated. We had to mediate the concepts, ideas and details from one language to another one, and we needed to be able to explain it to the others. And this was the major benefit we got, the mediation of the CEFR from one language to another one. Thank you very much for your attention.